Hello and welcome back to another episode. Today I can finally share with you a little thing I made back in December. A vampiric relic. A Christmas present, believe it or not, for a friend of mine in Sweden. You see, as far as I was concerned, Christmas was wrapped up for my friend. I had spotted this pop figurine of Pusheen Cat, the very popular icon in social media and messaging and things like that. It was perfect for her desk. It was just spot on. I got it well before the 15th of December, which is the final post deadline for Christmas in Sweden. Brilliant, excellent, all sorted. But then 3 days before the postal deadline, I saw this wonderful little box in a charity shop. This sort of pentagonal 3D object made of brass and glass. I'm sure there's a proper word for it. I'll put it on the screen in terms of the shape. But this box was perfect, it occurred to me, for a reliquary. Now, a reliquary is, in history and archaeology, a small container containing human remains. Typically the remains of a holy person or a saint or a martyr in Western Christianity. So famous examples include maybe a finger or a toe or a kneecap. I think I once saw a reliquary that had someone's eyeball in it. And these would be people who maybe were put to death by opposing Christians. So for example, maybe Protestants boiling Catholics alive in England at one point. Yay. And they're highly treasured artifacts. Little shrines almost to the honoured dead. And this was perfect for my friend because she is really into her LARPing, live action role play. And at the moment, she's playing in a vampire campaign set in the modern world, I believe. But obviously, being a vampire, she has a history. And I thought this would be great as something that she could use in a story connected to her vampire adventures. So, of course, I got the box and I started to make a little vampire tooth, a canine tooth, that I wanted to look slightly as though it was a bit larger than a normal tooth and had the point, but also as though it had been separate from someone's body or from the vampire's body for a while. And this is where my skills as an archaeologist, and indeed her background as an archaeologist, came in handy, because I knew it had to look the part because she would know what she was looking at. And over the course of a day or two, while I was working hard on wrapping up work for Christmas at my desk, in between tasks I was carving this tooth out of silk clay, almost like a polymer clay. And actually this stuff is much lighter and softer than most polymer clays I've worked with in the past. It's well, possibly, I think, a different substance. I haven't looked into it too much, but it feels almost like polystyrene rubber, if that makes any sense, when it's dry. And it's actually quite forgiving in terms of forming and sculpting. So I was able to make quite a robust tooth and then sand it down to the shape that I wanted. Of course, using my trusty clay modelling tools as well. The tooth came together quite well, and eventually I painted it up as well, and I gave a gloss coat on the enamel, because actually enamel on teeth survives quite well in the grave, and especially well if it's in a box, if it's being looked after. The root of the tooth was the right length-ish, maybe it could have been a bit longer, but so what. But the point is, I was really happy with that, and then all I had to do was line the box with some black, well, I wanted something like black felt, but I couldn't find any black felt. I have since got some black felt, but I didn't have it at the time. Remember, 2.5 days to do this. So I cut the tip off a witch's hat from Halloween a couple of years ago. I had 3 witch's hats and one of them was damaged, so I cut the tip off that one and sort of poked the pointy bit in on itself to form a little volcano, and that was going to house the tooth in the reliquary. And it was almost perfect, and it just needed one last thing, and that is that in the real world, reliquaries normally have documentation, like a note or a little tag explaining what is in the box. Sometimes the most amazing reliquaries, so I think there's ones of like hands or things that look like they're entire body parts with the holy bit sort of inlaid will have engraved information on it, but I didn't have the time to do that. So I made this little note using some papyrus. A friend of mine who went to Egypt several years ago now came back with a bunch of papyrus that I have in the shed, and I use for precisely these sorts of situations. So I cut a little bit off and made this little note that was just enough to work with as a story, but also vague enough to fit in almost anywhere in a campaign. It's something like, this tooth is the only remaining part of a vampire called Ignatius Pikeman, I think, who was staked by persons unknown. Essentially, I left it open so that she could maybe this was her friend of hers, or whatever, someone that she knew who had been murdered by a vampire hunter, or maybe even another vampire, who knows. And I thought, this is it, this is excellent, this is exactly what I would want if I was in that situation. Hopefully she'll like it. And so I wrapped it up carefully along with the Pusheen pop figurine, sent it off, and of course post to Sweden is often difficult. Even if you get it for the deadline, often it arrives after Christmas. So only a couple of days ago did she actually get the box. Also, she'd spent Christmas with her family in northern Sweden. She lives in the south now. So finally she got the box and she loved it. I'm so happy that she liked this thing, because it was a last minute idea. It was something that I wasn't entirely sure would come together. As I said, this was the first time I was working with silk clay, but it worked. And as one archaeologist to another, something perfectly morbid, as it were, for Christmas, and right up her alley in that sense as well, was my absolute pleasure to produce for her. Speaking of perfectly morbid, actually, something else that I got recently was I got this guy here, a little, well, not an hourglass, but a 5-minute egg timer that's sort of, again, over the top gothic, but very much up my street and up my alley. So I got this for work purposes, believe it or not. So it was the right thing from me to her, and I'm really pleased that I just saw that box and immediately had the idea. I'm so happy about that. And I'm also so happy I could actually share it with you, because it's been killing me. I've been going, oh, it's so brilliant, and I hope she likes it, and I hope it doesn't get lost in the post, and it didn't, and she does. And here we are. Vampire tooth for Christmas. Thank you guys for watching. Hopefully this has been fun. If it's been a bit noisy, I'm doing some work in the background on the computer. Maybe you can hear it whirring away. Apologies if that's the case. But I simply had to tell you about this tooth and the mini adventure I had putting it together. As ever, until next time, do take care. Bye bye.